We sifted through the list of upcoming shows and tried to determine which ones might not survive 2019. Maybe it's a case of a bad premise, showrunners with awful track records, or just tired storylines. Regardless, this group of programs may not be long for the televised world. ABC is no stranger to genre thrillers based around supernatural events or characters that have otherworldly powers. In that vein, the Alphabet Network is bringing us Emergence, about a police chief who finds a mysterious young girl near the site of a major accident. That discovery leads to a vast conspiracy surrounding the child.
I found a kid at the crash site. I'm being told he wasn't even on the plane.
Though the idea of superhuman kids on television is far from new, networks haven't had the best success with the concept in recent years. Fox dipped its toes into the Marvel Universe in 2017 with The Gifted, a show about a family that discovers its children have the mutant gene. The show lasted 2 seasons before getting canceled. The network tried again 2 years later with The Passage, in which a federal agent protects a young girl at the center of a series of top-secret government tests. That show lasted 10 episodes before getting the axe. And when you realize that ABC has struggled with some of its other out-of-this-world sci-fi shows like Flash Forward or V, it seems like Emergence could be headed for a relatively quick disappearance. ABC has been riding a hot hand in recent years with the works of Shonda Rhimes. From Grey's Anatomy to Scandal to How to Get Away with Murder, Shondaland is a world of televised delights. They're also major hits. Now, ABC is hoping to replicate the same magic with showrunner Kenya Barris, whose Blackish scored well enough from the parent network to earn a spin-off, Grownish, that airs on the Disney-owned cable channel Freeform. Now comes Mixedish, a prequel of sorts to Blackish. The show follows Rainbow Johnson as she recalls her childhood growing up in the 80s and the struggles of being a mixed-race child in a world that can't decide where she should fit in. But unlike Shonda Rhimes' shows, which all have vastly different premises and storylines, Mixedish seems kind of like a third version of the same story. It's hard to imagine that viewers are interested enough in the Johnson family to want a third series about them, especially one that seems to simply cover old ground.
The world smacked you in the face today, didn't it? You can tell me.
Fox is hoping for a winner with its family sitcom Outmatched. The show stars Jason Biggs and Maggie Lawson as a working-class New Jersey family with 4 kids. Nothing remarkable there, except 3 of those kids happen to be geniuses.
I will not be a Salieri in my own home.
I don't know what any of that means.
Television has a storied history of giving us precocious children in sitcoms. It's what helped make Joey Lawrence, the Olsen twins, and the kids from Modern Family household names. But it's a fine line that shows walk with young characters. Everyone wants to be Stewie Griffin. Few want to be Steve Urkel. The idea of smart alecky super genius kids feels like an immediate turnoff, unless you're a spinoff of The Big Bang Theory. Stop us if you've heard this one. A hoity-toity type from the big city finds himself in a small town where he has to absorb the culture shock and find a way to assimilate, or at least tolerate, a completely new way of doing things. This premise has worked to great success in a number of shows. Now, NBC is hoping to find similar success with Perfect Harmony. The single-camera sitcom stars Bradley Whitford, who's in the midst of a run on the highly regarded The Handmaid's Tale. He also previously found big success on the Peacock network as Josh Lyman on The West Wing. This time around, Whitford is a former Ivy League music professor who finds himself working with the choir of a small-town church. As you'd expect, there is a major clash of sensibilities between Arthur Cochran and his new musical charges. Behind the scenes, the hope is that Leslie Wake Webster and Jason Weiner, 2 of the forces behind CBS's Life in Pieces, can make the show a hit. But it will be a challenge to see how they make this pretty specific take on an old premise stick with TV audiences. No one could ever accuse CBS of not giving their audiences what they want. If there's one thing the Tiffany Network is chock full of, it's crime and courtroom dramas. From the CSI and NCIS franchises to Bull and The Good Fight, CBS viewers probably have a good idea of how scripted, dramatic jurisprudence works. Yet for those television watchers tired of seeing shows about the inner workings of the legal system, well, here's another show about the inner workings of the legal system. All Rise follows the day-to-day challenges of judges and lawyers in Los Angeles as they try to work within an inadequate system attempting to deliver justice, all while trying to make sense of their own lives in the process. It's one thing to find a winning formula and attempt to duplicate it. It's another to continually reheat and rearrange the same ingredients and try to call it a new dish. CBS recently canceled The Code after just 1 season when that courtroom drama failed to gain any traction. Will All Rise stand up and distinguish itself, or will it follow the same fate? It's not uncommon for American television producers to look overseas to find inspiration for domestic shows. Sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. Israeli television seems to have created a hit with The Baker and the Beauty. a show about a humble baker who falls in love with and begins dating an international supermodel. The series was popular enough that Amazon picked up the show's first 2 seasons for international streaming. Around the same time, the show was reportedly being adapted by Universal Television for American audiences, and eventually ordered to series for the fall season. In the American version, the setting moves to Miami, with the main characters being of Cuban descent. It's another in a string of ABC shows featuring Latinx actors and characters, similar to Ugly Betty and Grand Hotel. Yet while those other shows feature familiar faces and star power to potentially bring viewers, The Baker and the Beauty stars a number of actors who might not be well known by a wide audience. Can the power of this unlikely love story be enough to attract watchers, or is the American version of this affair, supposedly debuting mid-season, doomed to go up in smoke? In the 90s, Fox scored big with The X-Files, a series about a science-minded FBI agent paired with a wild-eyed believer in conspiracy theories as they chased fantastical cases with a supernatural tinge. While you couldn't exactly call Fox Mulder a religious zealot, his steadfast faith in forces greater than mankind made for a compelling back and forth with the more staid and methodical Dana Scully. With Evil, CBS is attempting to resurrect a similar dynamic. The show centers on a questioning female clinical psychologist who teams up with a priest in training and a blue-collar carpenter to probe a backlog of the church's unexplained phenomena.
I know you believe in this stuff. I don't.
If the premise feels more than a little X-Files-y to you, then you're probably not alone. The difference is that the CBS iteration is likely to have many more biblical references than its paranormal predecessor. In and of itself, that's not a bad thing. The network had a long-running hit with Touched by an Angel, and it's done fairly well with the series God Friended Me. But it's worth wondering if there will be an audience for a show that pits science versus religion in such a dramatic way, without a clear point of view to draw audiences in. Religious beliefs tend to run a lot deeper than beliefs in UFOs, after all. If the show tries to pay equal lip service to a doubter and a true believer, then it's fair to wonder who the show will really be for. Audiences might not find the show to be evil itself, but they might not think it's all that good either. Networks are keen on building sitcoms around popular comedians, whether up-and-coming funny people or venerable entertainers that audiences know after watching them for years. Kenan Thompson falls squarely in the latter category. The veteran funny man broke onto the scene as a child actor in multiple Nickelodeon shows before beginning his run on Saturday Night Live in 2003. He currently holds the record as the show's longest-tenured cast member. Some of the more successful series built around comedians draw from the performer's work, life, or personality. Some of the worst tend to stifle an actor's creativity in an effort to put them in a network-friendly box. NBC hopes to avoid that second category with The Kenan Show. On the show, Thompson will play a widowed father of 2 dealing with an overbearing father-in-law, a familiar premise at least. Nothing about the concept seems particularly awful, but nothing about it seems all that compelling either. The idea of the harried single dad trying to balance work and home life has been done plenty of times, and it hasn't felt particularly fresh since maybe My 3 Sons. Part of what's made Thompson a stalwart on SNL for more than a decade and a half has been his ability to play hilarious and outrageous characters. Now it seems like NBC is asking him to play a much more sedate persona in a format that's been done to death. The show's not even out yet, but it kind of already feels like a relic of the past. The idea that robots and other forms of artificial intelligence will rise up and eventually signal the destruction of mankind is an idea as old as science fiction itself. Who hasn't seen the video of robots doing parkour and wondered if the nightmares they've had about their own cyber-based demise were actually on the verge of coming true? Who hasn't stood on a street corner screaming that Skynet had become self-aware and that Terminators were coming for us all? Just us? Okay. Anyway, Fox is hoping that you haven't tired of stories of dystopian digital futures with its new show Next. The futuristic thriller stars John Slattery as a tech entrepreneur who realizes that an artificial intelligence application he created could eventually lead to the world's destruction. In an era where we already have smart homes, our phones are always listening to us, and companies and governments are doing who knows what with the data, it might be hard to get viewers too worked up over the premise of the show. Seriously, have you kept up with the news on this stuff? This tech dystopia looks too familiar. We want to see something with robots. A son is being asked to follow in his father's footsteps. The son rebels against being pigeonholed into a career that he doesn't want. Reluctantly, that son eventually succumbs to his destiny, though it might be in a different way than was originally envisioned. Many an on-screen tale has told that story. But this fall, when you tune into Fox's Prodigal Son, you'll be asked to consider, what if the family business was murder?
Malcolm, my boy,
On the show, Tom Paine plays the son of a convicted serial killer asked to track down other serial killers. Imagine if Dexter's son eventually became a homicide detective. The show is expected to have elements of dark comedy, which might work in its favor. Otherwise, this could end up as another in a long line of homicidal maniac-themed mystery shows that get bogged down in the premise that relies too heavily on a weird father-son relationship and not enough about catching the bad guys. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more Looper videos about your favorite stuff are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.